Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Tom.
And this is the Park Bench.
We are still in Mosquitoville, USA.
Oh, yes.
UK.
Yeah. And it's the Arctic monologue, episode number 2.
And it's getting dark here, which it didn't do up there. Just did not do. So here we go, 20-minute timer is started.
So at the end of the last one, you were talking about the first video, which was in Qaanaaq.
Qaanaaq. Yeah, the world's most northerly palindrome, which is...
Did you verify this?
No. So this was not the first place we stopped. We stopped in a lot of little Greenlandic, 2 or 3 Greenlandic villages. I say villages. Greenland towns. The whole country has about the population of Croydon.
So, a small place south of London. Large, small place.
Yeah.
A medium-sized place south of London.
So there's 2 things strange about that sentence. 1, you did the translation for Americans. And 2, you said the word south and not below.
Oh, yeah.
Well done. Anyway.
I've got a question. So
yes.
Greenland's a bit of Denmark-ish.
Oh, that's a really complicated political question. It is its own country, sort of.
But has ties.
And it uses the Danish kroner.
Oh, really?
So it's it's not its own country yet, but it's certainly home rule.
You know how countries have their own feel, what they look like and what the people feel like? Did it feel like...
Felt Nordic. Felt Scandic. Felt.
It did.
Well, I'll put the pictures up because it felt like it was beautiful little painted houses in the Arctic. We went to Svalbard. It's a bit like Svalbard, a bit rockier.
Okay.
Lots of big mountains, glaciers everywhere.
And it's got like gravelly streams at the bottom kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly that. In fact, I have a picture of a relevant gravelly stream for you. So Qaanaaq was maybe the 3rd place we visited. You'll see.
So the boat went round, it stopped in places, you got off and had a look and got back on again.
You say got off and had a look. That's more complicated than it might seem. Like our first stop, we got off onto a dock. We went down the gangplank, there's a dock. That was the only time that happened.
Now, from what I've seen of icebreakers going to the Antarctic, they use helicopters.
Yeah. Sometimes we got to use a helicopter.
Ooh.
But normally...
Did it come with one?
It came with 2. Russian Mi-2s plus pilots.
Just sat on deck the whole time?
Sat... They were normally in the little garage with the rotors taken off.
Of course, garage, yes.
Yeah. And the pilots... whose names completely escape me. I think one was Anatoly, and I can't remember what the other one was, which is terrible of me. One was quite adventurous, and we got him on the first trip. You know, I don't like drops.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, pilot number 1, who we got, decided that it would be a brilliant idea to just tap the top of a cliff and then do that off it. And I'm sat in the... because I'm with Ben and Tim, who are egging him on and go on, go for it. I'm sat in the back going...
It's one of those things, if you protest, then there's more chance they'll do it.
Yeah. Up, around, absolutely fine. Plunge downwards, not so much. But God, he flew close to the glacier. And you'll see some of this in the video I'm doing from one of the glaciers. He basically just skims the top of it at high speed. He takes us in front of the carving front, like below the ice.
Oh, God.
Like, at one point, we are basically doing a Death Star trench run through a crevasse in this glacier.
I suppose that's the only way you can see the scale of the thing.
Yeah, it doesn't come across on camera. I've got a line in my script on that video saying it doesn't come across on camera. It does not. At all.
One thing I remember from when we were in Svalbard, and the glacier we saw, was it looks so huge, and they say it is bigger than it looks anyway, and they say how tall it is, and then you take a picture of it and it looks tiny.
Yeah.
And I've seen like one photo of yours, the one thing that you did show me.
Yeah, it's that big.
It
really is that big.
You just can't tell.
So that's one way of getting it. The other helicopter pilot a little more stayed. When we got to Canada, the Russian helicopters are not licensed to fly there. So we got 2 new Canadian helicopters and pilots who did a 3-day journey, including sleeping in their helicopters, to meet us there. Yeah. They turned up. They have one chopper that is... like, they've been firefighting. You okay?
Yeah, I can hear something rustling behind us, but I'm sure it's
famous last words. One had been out firefighting, I think, and they turned up. They are now our sightseeing helicopters. One is kind of stayed, can't do manoeuvring, but will buzz the Klebnikov at 100 miles an hour. Well, that's not an exaggeration. I saw his speedo. It was 100 and something knots or whatever it was. Just buzz the ship as he goes back. And the other won't do that, but will absolutely pull off aerobatic manoeuvres and pull round, things like that. It's like, which one do you want? Get in line for the appropriate one. And it took a while. It took several hours to get all the passengers through the helicopter rides, but that was one way of getting there. But that was for short visits. So because of the time it takes to load and unload helicopters and the expense and the fuel, that would be if we're going for a sightseeing flight or if we are doing something like landing on top of a glacier. Not on the actual glacier, but on the snowy bit in between them.
As you do.
I do not have words. There was a moment where I'm standing on the mountaintop with fresh powder underneath me with 3 glaciers. I can't. 3. I will try and show the photos, but speechless. I could have stayed there a long time. We all could. There was one. We got 4 helicopter rides in 4 days because that was what we could do. That was what the expedition team worked out was possible with our route. Okay. When helicopter rides almost become routine, you know you're on a good cruise.
I might just resort to saying "ding."
Yeah.
But for every thing that's become blasé to you, I'm just going to go "ding."
Yeah. So that was one way of going, and the other way was on the Zodiacs. Because apart from that first stop, we did not land on a dock. We landed on a beach.
Zodiac being
the rigid inflatable boat, which you would go down the gangplank. The boat would be going like this. You would step across, but you would have someone grabbing wrist to wrist on both sides.
And you jump as it goes down, not as it goes up.
Yeah, in you go. Sit down, hold on, and sometimes it was smooth. Sometimes we saw glaciers and icebergs, and it was nice, smooth through down a fjord. Sometimes it was not. Sometimes it was repeatedly for those of us at the front of the boat. Those with back problems sat at the back of the boat. At one point, it was a 5-mile run all the way back from somewhere. But that's still pretty cool.
Oh no, you had a bumpy ride to get back from the random bit of ice. Greenland
and
that
Qaanaaq.
No one's ever been to.
And then you would get to. So if this is where I'm sitting, let's put the front of the boat that way. Boom, 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 right, land, and then you get out by apparently never turn your back on the ocean. Go like this, and then you swing out, and you just sploosh into water about knee deep. You got big rubber boots on.
Oh, they give you wellies.
They give proper industrial. I think they're called muck boots.
Okay.
Proper industrial boots.
When they record
it. And you splash through, and then you are on possibly somewhere that no one has ever stood before.
Ding.
Yeah. Because this is really remote. It's really and they don't pick a certain bay that they've been to before. They land, look at they pull up. They drop anchor, and then they decide, right, that's where we're going to go.
Huh.
So it's entirely possible we trod places that no human has ever trod before, and that's quite a weird feeling. And sometimes it was a 5-mile hike across tundra. We had 3 groups. There were the charging Vikings, who would go like, see that mountain? We're going up that mountain. Chris Hadfield, always in that group. There was the medium group, which was, we're going for a few miles hike. We're going to be okay, but we can stop, we can take photos. It's generally my group. And then there was the contemplative walk by the beach group, which I joined once and did not regret it because I found out the other guys actually went up a mountain. So this was great. We saw...
So it was as active as you wanted it to be. You could be...
Yeah, it really was.
Or la 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 la.
Yeah, absolutely, because they had a wide clientele to work with. Well, wide in terms of ability.
Yeah.
Demographics, not so much. So yes, so we landed by a Zodiac at a lot of places. Sometimes we were visiting a community. Sometimes we would be just seeing somewhere there was nowhere.
I'd guess a bad back is a sign of the Zodiac.
What? Oh, for God's sake. Sign of the Zodiac. Nice, okay, good. So yeah, we saw, I didn't, but people photographed Arctic hares. People photographed musk ox. I managed to get a couple of pictures of them.
Okay.
Stupid looking animal. It's like a buffalo, but hairier.
So if I was a buffalo?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It can barely see. It's just got hair everywhere.
If I was a...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there isn't much wildlife up there. A lot of birds. Like our guide in Norway said, there are quacks and there are peeps. But there were some birders who were just getting the long lens out and going, oh, that is a lesser spotted grumble gunnet. I'm like, okay, good.
Oh, you can see the grumble from here.
Yep, you can.
Polar bears?
Polar bears were specks off in the distance because we couldn't land if there was a polar bear near.
Yeah, you can't disturb them. I'm sure they're reasonably clever enough to.
We are not allowed within 200 metres, we aren't allowed to disturb the polar bears, and the guideline is 200 metres.
Yeah.
So we would hear over the tannoy for Americans, over the PA system, we would hear, ladies and gentlemen, we found a polar bear on the ice at 11 o'clock. Go out, get some photos. And we'd go out, and the people with long lenses would be like, I can just about see that. I'd look through a telescope, and oh yeah, that's a bear, and then there's nothing. And then that happens one day, and I've spotted a polar bear on an ice floe. It's hunting a seal on the ice floe. So the boat essentially does circles around this ice floe for a while, just round, and people are taking photos, and the seal gets away, and it's like, all right, well, we're not going to see anything else here. It's going to be a bear in the middle of the ice floe sitting. So we go to dinner, and towards the end of dinner, the expedition leader, one of the expedition leaders, comes in and says, look, we can't announce this over the PA because it'll scare the bear, but it's got a bit closer because the bears don't understand the regulations that say how close they can get. And it's maybe about 100 metres away. You might want to come out and have a look at this. And most of the folks at dinner are like, it's going to be a speck in the distance. I haven't got a long lens. But I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to take the hit. I'll finish my dinner. I'll go out into the cold. Next thing anyone in the dining room knows is my face popping up at the porthole going... Because you can't talk, because you can't say anything, because you can't run, and the dining hall empties. And Mark, one of the waiters, said he later came out. And he's like, "Where'd everyone go?" And literally, there were people on deck I have never seen who came up from the engineering department in the bottom of the ship to see this because the polar bear has walked up to the boat, and it is there. I'm like, it doesn't look much in my photos because I've got an iPhone. But the people with long lenses were going, oh, I've got to where's my other lens? Well, I've got to get a wide shot of it. Like, it just walked up and had a look at us. And then it drank some water and it walked off. They said it was the best bear encounter they'd had in 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. Bears don't
Ding.
Yeah. Bears don't do that.
No. They're clever enough to know that you're bad for them.
Yep. But this one was curious and came up and said hi, I guess. Huh. There was a conversation that night. Like previously they said, if we find a bear in the early hours of the morning, we will wake you guys up at 3 a.m. I thought, that's not happening. We're not going to beat that. We are not going to beat that. You guys have a good night. That's the best bear encounter you're going to have.
Huh. It's just started to rain.
Yeah, it has. We'll be okay. It'll get rid of the mosquitoes.
It will.
Apparently the difference between low Arctic and high Arctic is whether you're doing this all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you had polar bears?
Yep.
Did you have like whales and stuff?
Yeah, Ben got... yeah, in the Zodiacs. We saw him. Ben got his drone over the top of them. Thing goes... just, yeah. Got whales, got all that, got the wildlife, tick, tick, tick. Got to film some really, really incredible places. Got to film an ice fjord, which is where the icebergs... After the front falls off the glacier, that's where they go.
Yeah.
And you'll see that video. I'm standing there in a t-shirt very much like this one. Because we just power walked all the way up there. Yeah. I've sort of edited the video. I don't know if it'll actually make it, but someone also got in touch with me from Ilulissat, that town. Yeah. And I filmed a video with them at the relay station. I have no idea if it's actually worked or not, so I'll see that in a bit. Yeah, we went to towns called Ilulissat, Simiut, Qaanaaq, Glaciers. We didn't go to Glaciers. We couldn't land there. We had to bring on 2 customs officials from Canada because that was our embarkation point. And in the process of trying to fetch them from Glaciers, where they'd flown into a few days earlier, the crew had several of their, the life jackets that automatically inflate when they get wet. Yeah. The Zodiac got so swamped that several of the crew's life jackets went poof while they were out there. It's like, no, we're not landing you in that. We can't land you in that. And 2 very bedraggled customs officials came on board to stamp all our passports. Grease Fjord, Resolute, and Tankery Fjord, a lot of beautiful places anywhere up to 81 degrees north.
What time zone is it there?
Anywhere from -3 to -6. Time zones get really close together at the pole.
And did you stick to them?
More or less. The boat did a little bit of easing. So like we went straight from -3 to -5, they'd probably give us a day on -4, so it worked out. We had ship time. But we didn't know what time it was. We didn't know what day it was. We didn't know what date it was.
We only got a couple of hours of
It
night.
was this... We got there, and there was this, oh, this is new. And then there was, this is routine, and we have no idea what day it is. And I was like, oh, it's nearly over. And it felt like a dream. It felt, coming back to London, like I'd stepped out for a day and had this dream and come back. It really did, because it was this weird space of having no contact. I mean, a couple of people stopped and got some Wi-Fi in a place in Greenland. I was too busy filming. Other than that, like there was email on board. You could pay $30 and that gave you 200 kilobytes of email a day on a brand new email address. That is it. That is all the connectivity we had.
Yeah.
I didn't bother. There were newspapers, I think, emailed in each day that they printed off like A4 sheets of. Didn't look at them. 2 times I heard news when I was on the ship because someone shouted it out in the bar. Both times it was bad and made my day worse. Gene Wilder dying and SpaceX rocket exploding. And both times I said, why have you said that? You've made my day worse by acknowledging this. The rest of the world exists.
It's the kind of news that you can't do anything about at that moment in time.
Absolutely nothing I can do about it. And yeah, it was this weird other space and time that I'm not entirely sure really happened. I've just got a load of good... There's one thing that sums it up, which is coming back from viewing the muskox. We'd landed via helicopter. We'd gone off to see a muskox, looked through a telescope. We walked back, and on the way back...
Ding, ding.
Yeah. On the way back, I came back, and there was a wonderful man called Bob, Robert Headland, who is one of the world's leading experts on the poles. He has a mountain named after him in the Antarctic. That's how qualified. And he is wonderful. He is what you would expect a proper British explorer to be.
Oh, yes.
He has a big beard and a perfect received pronunciation accent. And he will say, ladies and gentlemen. And he's in a couple of Ben's videos, you'll see him. As I'm walking back, I get this image in my head of something I haven't thought of in 20 years, which is when I was a kid, my parents sent off for a book. And I think it came free with packets of cereal. And it was a book about Thomas's adventures at the North Pole. Because it's a book where you sent off and you said what the name and gender of your child, and the artwork and words in the book would be printed appropriately.
Oh, right.
Just a nice little thing. I hadn't thought about that in 20 years. It was Thomas's adventures at the North Pole. And the person that apparently, according to this book, I went on an adventure with was this tall, beardy old explorer, grey beard, big red parka. And I'm walking back towards the helicopter and I go, that's Bob! Because he's standing there with his beard, ramrod straight, with a bright red parka. Like, Bob, can I get a photo with you? Because I need to send this to my mum, who will not have forgotten this for 20 years, and say that this has come true. And he, of course, he's happy with that. And then he gives his best regards to my mother, which is the first time I've ever heard that said entirely non-sarcastically. And all the team were like this. Like the expedition team were world experts. Who would at other times of year be studying.
So they brought experts on to show you around.
They are the expedition team. They are also the people who flag down the helicopters and make sure they land and get us safely aboard and do the lifeboat drills and everything like that.
So it's not transport; it's like organised tours with experts.
Yeah, they've all been trained, and they are our tour guides. But they are also world-leading experts in polar exploration.
I just assumed it was a boat taking you places, and once you got there, you did your own thing.
No, we're not even allowed to. We're not allowed to leave the groups because polar bears.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the Greenland towns, yeah, you go off and you explore on your own, or you take the guided tour. But otherwise, it's no, you stay with your group, because otherwise you are going to get eaten by a polar bear if one appears. Because given the choice between large rabble and single thing that looks a bit like a seal when it lies down, the polar bear's going to go for that one.
I didn't mean you do your own thing. I meant as a group, the group does its own thing.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realise it was organised everything.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Apart from, and this is a story I mentioned in the first one, Qaanaaq.
Okay.
Qaanaaq is a little Greenland town. There are a couple of things to do there. Danny, who of course charmed people, walked up to someone who had recently caught a narwhal, and who was...
I thought narwhals were fictional.
No, they're real. Unicorns of the sea. And who was butchering it, and occasionally taking little bits of meat for himself. And Danny, being Danny, asks him what he's done, asks him if he's proud of him, a little bit of English, and says, can I have some? I was like, sure. So Danny ate narwhal sashimi in Qaanaaq. It's rubbery. Your teeth bounce off it, apparently.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. But while they're all doing that, I have gone off in search of this listening station, which I'm not entirely sure is a real thing. And I've gone off with Elmo, who is the one person I haven't described yet. And she is an Australian journalist. She's written for all sorts of places. If you ever saw the brilliant takedown of Mars One, there was a wonderful long read on how Mars One is almost certainly very dodgy.
Okay.
And she wrote that. Last story. Last story. It can't be the last story. I've got one more to tell you after this. We'll have to do one more. And she's brilliant. And we have gone off because she wants to find this listening station. She wants to find the people who run it. She wants to find an interview. And we get about a kilometre out and we get to a point where the sled dogs are blocking our way. Because there are wild sled dogs. They are chained up, but they are semi-wild dogs. Like, you do not mess with them. They are not pets. They are working dogs.
Yeah.
They are related to wolves. If you anger them, they will hurt you. And our way is blocked. And I'm thinking, it's just over that ridge. I've seen the coordinates. It's just over that ridge. And she's like, do you know this? No, I don't. I could be walking for 5 kilometres, 10 kilometres for all I know. Yeah. And she went on the big hike the other day. So she makes a very sensible decision that, no, we should turn back. She's a journalist. She's going to go investigate in town and try and find the guy who runs it. And I'm all, well, I'm British. I can't do the...
I suppose in places like that, they've got a bit of everyone knows everyone.
Yeah, because there's only a few hundred people in the town. And I'm all, I really don't want to be that awkward person asking things to the locals. So I'm going to hike onwards and find it. And she's going to go back to town. And we're going to split the party. So I take a different route. I hike up a hill. I walk along the main road. And I find the listening station, or one of the bits of it. I'm like, okay, this'll do. I'm kind of holding the camera awkwardly in a selfie way for a little while. And I get a couple of takes. I'm not really happy with it. But you know what? I've got something. And then out of the fog, this pickup truck rocks up with Sven Eirik, the guy we interviewed, in the driver's seat, and Elmo, bright yellow expedition parka, waving out the window and smiling. And that is the memory out of all the ridiculous things I've seen where I've said I don't have words. Out of everything, that's the bit I'm going to remember. Because that was the moment when we went, oh, this is a team. We've worked together and we found a thing, and this is a team, and we are both going to make something incredible because of it. Because I got that video, and then Elmo, having charmed Sven Eirik, got him to show us inside things, and then we went back to his base, got to talk inside the base. She sat down for a half-hour interview with him, which will be out. She'll publish it somewhere, follow her on Twitter and all that. And Simone, one of our photographers, takes an incredible portrait shot of him. Which, again, I don't have this. It will be on here. It will be part of the article when she puts it up.
Yeah.
And it was teamwork, and it was this moment of, we have come out here, and yes, this is a jolly, this is fun, this is going to get to see something, but we've made a thing that we would not have been able to make alone. She wouldn't have known about the thing. I wouldn't have been able to find Sven Eirik.
Yeah.
Simona got a gorgeous series of photos that he can then put together. That was the moment of going, that's why we're here. That's the crew we've got. That's why we put this thing together. And yeah, out of everything, that's pretty much it.
Did you say there was one more story?
There are always more stories, Matt.
You're ready for this?
No. There's no limit.